Welcome to the Elevate Talk Show. I am your host, Deanna Johnson Coffin.
And I'm Adrianna Coffin, your co-host, and we're the mother-daughter talk show that's here to elevate your family. If you haven't done so already, take a second to like this video and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes.
Yes, and today, in case you're wondering why I am wearing a party hat, I am wearing a party hat because this week we celebrate our 1-year anniversary as the Elevate Talk Show. So we are 1 year. Oh, happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, dear Elevate. Happy birthday to us. And so we are super excited about that. And we have declared the month of April as the Celebrate with Elevate month. And basically during the month of April, we are going to give a shout out to some of our subscribers and viewers who helped to make the Elevate Talk Show a success during our first year, because without subscribers and without viewers, there would be no show. So with that being said, the Elevate Talk Show would like to give a shout out to some people: Helen King, Emily Tiez, Malika Wells, Kate Hibbert, Jessica Heckert, and Ambrielle Smith. They subscribed to our show back in March of 2021. They were our first 6 subscribers. And we just want to thank them. We have had many since then, but we want to thank them because they were the very first. And as a way to show our gratitude, we are going to be sending them, if we haven't sent them already, one of these new Elevate Talk Show refrigerator magnets as just a little thank you, a little gift, a little token of our love and appreciation for being subscribers to our show. Adrianna, what else do we have planned for the show today?
Yeah, so we've got a great show planned today. In our Around the Town segment, we're going to be taking you to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. In our Perspective segment, we'll be talking about what we learned during the pandemic and all the lessons that we learned during that time. And in our Continuing the Conversation segment, my mom is going to be interviewing a group of her friends, and they'll all be sharing about the lessons that they learned during the pandemic.
Absolutely. And in this week's Meal of the Week segment that Adrianna hosts, she is going to be showing our viewers, you, how to make a delicious cheesy shells zucchini and chicken recipe. So it's cheesy shells mixed in and zucchini and chicken are mixed in. Delicious, filling, healthy, tasty, all of that good stuff. So with that being said, we need to take a short break, but don't go away because we'll be right back. Segment where Adrianna, Anna, and I discuss a particular topic or a question. And the question on the table today is, how do you think the pandemic has changed our family, or even what do you think we've learned about ourselves from this pandemic? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think during the pandemic, a lot of us really learned how to be creative. We've hosted things online, we've done things outside, and it's just really taught us to think outside the box.
Yeah, and I think for us personally, I think we learned how to work together even more as a family. We were already doing pretty well in that area, but we really learned how to pull together, be a team. As a matter of fact, this show developed out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so it's, for some families, maybe not, maybe that didn't happen, but for us, it was, although the pandemic was awful, it was a really good thing because we really pooled our resources, our time and our energy, and we were a great team. So, yeah, I think that's it. We're going to talk more about lessons from the pandemic. With my interview with my group of friends, I had several ladies over for brunch a couple of weeks ago, and they get to share their wisdom with us about the things that they learned during the pandemic. So don't go away. We'll be right back in just a moment. everybody. Welcome to the Elevate Talk Show. Today we're going to do something a little different during our continuing the conversation time. This is normally the time where I do a one-on-one interview with a personality. Well, today I get to have some of my favorite people, friends, here with me, and we're going to talk about lessons that we've learned from the pandemic. The question of the day is, what lesson have you learned from this pandemic? It's been 2 years. So much has happened. A lot of bad, but a lot of good. And so I was thinking this is a great time to just talk amongst friends and have them share with you the things that they have learned, good, bad, or ugly, from this pandemic. And so we're just going to have a conversation. So here we go. First up is Christy. Christy, can you talk to us about a lesson that you've learned from this pandemic?
Well, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned was about how fragile our bodies are. And I was sharing with you earlier how, being in the wheelchair, before the pandemic, I was in pretty good shape. I was able to go to the Y and go swimming and work out in yoga classes and do all them things. And through that process, that kept my body, at least my upper body, pretty strong. Well, after the pandemic, everything shut down, and trying to maintain a at-home exercising routine gets easily diverted when you find other things to do, where I'm sitting there working on my book and keeping the house clean and all those other things. Even though it was somewhat doing exercising, but it wasn't like doing the 40 laps that I did get up to doing. So, and having lost a lot of ability to be able to maintain my independence was a lesson.
That's huge. Thank you for sharing that. So Cynthia, what lesson or lessons have you learned? And I know you had some other thoughts, but share, please.
Okay, I think I'm going to share lessons that I learned as an educator. Going through the pandemic was a shock to me, and it was more the technology issues that once we realized that school is closed, now we got to be virtual. Now you got to learn something like Zoom, which I had no idea. What is Zoom? I get an email from one of my instructors to say, we got to meet on Zoom. And I'm like, what is Zoom? I had to look it up. And then also, we had to teach online. We had to learn what teams were. I had no idea what teams were. So I found myself a person of certain age that I had to learn technology. And so I had to stretch myself. I had to go on YouTube to find out, the things we had, like quick workshops that you got to learn this. And it was so quick, I couldn't grasp it. And all of us, my coworkers of certain age, we couldn't grasp it. So I had to stretch myself to go on my own to realize, okay, you can get on YouTube and you can find things. Even though it's taken half my night, I had to do it. So I think that was one of the things that I learned, that even a person of a certain age, we can learn when we have to.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, God. Cheryl, what lessons? Share with us.
I have many lessons. I've learned that you can get really cute face mask for one. But I've also learned that you don't need as much as you think you need. And me being a big shoe and clothes person, I realized after I started wearing my leggings and my just regular t-shirt every day that I really didn't need as much as I thought that I needed. So I went through a lot of purging through my closets and through my home, just to clear things up. and realize that you don't need as much as you think that you do. That's probably the biggest thing that I learned, and that the shift is good. And I considered the pandemic a shift for the whole world, and that this is the change that's needed for families and work and everybody to make the change in the world and in their lives.
Thank you
Amen.
for sharing.
Amen.
Thank you. Alexis, what lesson have you learned?
Well, it's kind of interesting. When it first happened, I panicked. I mean, I hit absolute panic because I felt like suddenly I was locked inside. And the thing that happened just as immediately as in me panicking is that the Lord dropped the power of His peace. And so in that having to be still, then in being still, I've been amazed at the things that are internally hidden within us that we don't have a clue about, going along and being good Christians and knowing and saying the right thing, but the depth of the anxiety, of the fears and things that we've held on through the years. So this time of being still, it's like it's given me the opportunity to draw closer to the Lord, to be still, to know the fullness of the salvation of who He is. And of course the Zoom questions, the body kinds of things, not getting out, not going to the gym, the effect that it has upon your lungs, how it has the effect upon your limbs. It's like it shortens your life. We have to find different ways to get out and to move, because life is for the living, no matter what the circumstances are, is that God with us becomes a source of light. I've learned the power of things that I would just take for granted. I've learned in being still, take those things in, give it to Him, take it to Him until I find out what His truth says. When I find His truth, then I find myself stronger. So actually the pandemic has actually strengthened me in the power of His grace.
Wow.
Amen.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Alexis. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that was great.
It was wonderful.
Well, I learned that the pandemic brought up a lot of issues that were uncomfortable. And but what I learned in it is to just listen with understanding. Racial tensions was a big thing, and many other things. But I learned just to listen with understanding. And you know what? I have a bunch of new friends, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm a dental hygienist, so I do a lot of listening to my patients. And I wasn't home very long, and I was back in it. And that was scary. That first day, I was really scared. But haven't gotten sick, and I've been blessed with lots of new friends, lots of diverse friends, which I'm very thankful for.
That's great. Thank you, Ruth.
Amen.
Sunny, can you share with us a lesson you've learned?
From a big perspective, I've learned about suddenly, like what suddenly means, and that we know that God is omnipotent, but through this pandemic, what I learned is that did He send the plague? I know that in the Old Testament, plagues were sent, but I know that He brought this world to their knees. Wow. And I was able to witness that firsthand, that the world stopped. And my mind was completely blown. He sent us all to our prayer closets, and what we decided to do at that time was our decision. And so it really made me look inwardly about my life, my choices, and that we're still in it. Like, we don't know what's going to happen next, but I now know that we're kind of living on the edge, like we're taking it day by day. And it reminded me of the scripture that said every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that Jesus is Lord. And when He comes back again, it can look something like what we have experienced. On a personal level, I didn't want to come out the way I went in. So even just something as tangible as I had a couple of poetry books that I was working on, and I said, I cannot come out of this pandemic without completing that. So it's been pretty life altering. And so I take each day as, you can suddenly have a great blessing and your life can be turned around. And then you can have a suddenly where the world is flipped on its head. So I'm just very watchful, very prayerful, and I've been doing a lot of counseling and inner healing. So that's what the pandemic has done for me.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. Thank you. Kate, can you share with us?
Sure. For myself, I think something I learned during the pandemic was really about kind of redefining like self-care. It's very much like a buzzword and people like to throw it around, but I think what it means to me now is just doing the things you need to do to take care of yourself, right? Like sometimes it's as simple as making breakfast, going for a walk. Like walks were huge for me during the pandemic, just to get outside, like see the sun, move my body more than like the 10 feet of my bedroom, because I lived with roommates and I was not sure about their behavior and how like safe they were being. So I just really wanted to, still be able to move around, and that helped me a lot in terms of my mental health along with my physical health. So yeah, just doing the things that you need to do to take care of yourself is as simple as it can be, but sometimes we complicate it, but it's not complicated.
Exactly. Thank you. Well, Doris, what lesson pops out at you?
What lesson I learned during the pandemic? First, not to be so intimidated by technology. And I learned that technology is a good thing. It's not the enemy. And I actually had some jobs, online. It has been a learning experience with somebody of my age and culture. It really has. And I would think the biggest thing that has come out of this is self-awareness. And my thing is like, what does God want me to see? What does God want me to do? Because I spent so much time with myself, and like, do I even like myself? I like myself, but there were some parts of me I didn't like. It's like, okay, what does God want me to improve? And I spent a lot of time at, reflecting, and I had more time for meditation and more time for like, oh man, I get to go to the gym 5 days a week instead of 4. And I had more time to reach out with my friends and really, really listen. So for me, it's a time of self-awareness and to look into my house and like, what is all this stuff? Where'd it come from? Do I even need this? So just looking at myself and figuring out where I am in this pandemic, what does God need from me? What do my friends need from me? And what do I need to improve on? That's what I learned.
Wow, that's great. That's wonderful. Lynn, what lesson have you learned from these last 2 years?
Patience. Patience and going within, also realizing you have a lot of things you don't need, and it's a lot of grace. I lost a lot of friends in the last year and a half, so that just, I'm thankful I've had time to grieve that and not to have been rushed back into life, where just to feel my emotions and live through them. And the other one is compassion and service, because I'm blessed beyond measure. I think most of us are here, and doing a lot of outreach when other people weren't available to do it has really service, and that's what the Lord's all about. So, thank you.
Lesson from this pandemic pops out at you?
The biggest one I learned is that I like plans, and I had a lot of expectations, and right at the beginning everything went right out the window, and I learned to let go. God really just kind of ripped all that away from me, and I've learned to be more in the moment, like where I am right now, this moment, enjoying this moment, these ladies, this food. In the past, I would have been thinking about tomorrow and next week and the to-do list, and that's completely gone. And now I just sort of take what comes as it does, and things don't go the way I planned, but they go different, and it's okay. It's really okay.
That's amazing. Guys, I am floored by everything that I've heard. I'll be mulling over this over the coming days and weeks. But just so many great takeaways. And I guess for me, there's a lot of takeaways. And I've shared this with you earlier. But I guess one of the main takeaways for me was the way we do church. Since I am a church-going person and I have been a church leadership for many, many years, it's been amazing to me to see how some of us have been able to pivot and do church, and that's been encouraging to me, that the church is not a building. The church is are the people of God. And I think that this it was the school system and the church. Those were the two big things that popped out at me. How hard it was for the educational system in the United States to really pivot. That was a shock to me and a real disappointment. But it was also hard for me to see the church and how some of us were able to pivot, but a lot of us were not able to pivot. And so it's been encouraging to be in a fellowship where we could still do church and be together, be it outside in the backyard or on Zoom. That was super encouraging, and it's also been encouraging to see other congregations do that. It's not just us, but I came away with the church is not a building. The church are the people of God, and I'm encouraged by that. So, ladies, I don't know what to say except to say thank you for joining me in this conversation. Y'all are the best, and let's do it again, okay? All right, thanks. Welcome back to the Elevate Talk Show. And now the Elevate Talk Show takes you around the town to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. And our family visited there a few weeks ago. And I'm telling you, it was spectacular. I've always wanted to go. I've heard about the Outer Banks from friends and other family members, but never had an opportunity. Well, we got to go, and it was wonderful, was it not?
Yeah, it was great. It was really beautiful, and it was nice seeing the ocean and getting to walk on the beach and just enjoy nature.
Yeah, it was chilly, so we didn't actually go into the water, but and since we went during the off season, some of the touristy stuff was closed, but they had lots of great stuff to do. They had ferry rides to take over to Ocracoke Island. There were museums to see. There were beaches to ride on if you had a four-wheel drive, which we happen to have. So we just, we were only there 4 days, but we made the most of it. So please turn your attention to our time in the Outer Banks, North Carolina. This week, the Elevate Talk Show takes you around the town to the Outer Banks, barrier islands off the coast of North Carolina, separating the Atlantic Ocean from the mainland. These long stretches of beach, marshes, dunes, and woodland, which are known today as Cape Hatteras National Seashore, offer solitude, discovery, wildlife, and excitement. When our family visited there a few weeks ago, we rented a house on the beach, and the ocean view from our balcony was nothing short of phenomenal. One of our first stops on the island was visiting the Graveyard of the Atlantic, a museum that features a plethora of items lost from shipwrecks, including uniforms, tables and chairs, personal items like sewing machines, a ship's flag, and so much more. The museum also showcases many artifacts, including the 1854 Cape Hatteras Lighthouse Fresnel lens. It tells about major events that took place in the Cape Hatteras area and shares stories about the lives of the people who lived there. Although it was too chilly to get into the water, we spent time walking on the beach with our dog Carolina, cycling around the island, and enjoying the sights of the surrounding area. We also spent time touring a local harbor and admiring the various boats and beautiful homes nearby. Our favorite adventure was taking a drive on the beach at Cape Hatteras. If you want to drive on the beach, however, you must have a four-wheel drive vehicle, and you will need to obtain an ORV permit. The Outer Banks is also home to Ocracoke Island, a secluded and tranquil island that offers a quiet escape to untouched shores. The island, home to the Ocracoke Island Lighthouse, can be accessed by taking a 60-minute ferry ride. The Hatteras Ocracoke ferry ride is free and runs often during peak season. North Carolina's Outer Banks offer an experience with nature that is second to none, and it is a must-see for all. For more information about the Outer Banks, visit www.outerbanks.org. We hope you enjoyed our adventures to the Outer Banks, North Carolina. We need to take a break, but don't go away. We'll be back.
Welcome back to the Elevate Talk Show, and in today's Meal of the Week segment, I'm going to be showing you how to make a cheesy shells chicken and zucchini dish.
Yeah, very delicious, very filling, and healthy. So please take a look at the Meal of the Week video.
Hello and welcome to our Meal of the Week segment. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a really great easy weeknight meal. Today we're going to be making cheesy shells, chicken, and zucchini. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start off by sauteing our zucchini. So I'm just going to put in 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And I'm just going to let that melt in the pan. Alright, so now that the butter's melted, I'm just going to stick in 3 sliced zucchini. I cut it into circular slices and then I cut each of the slices in half. And now I'm going to put in 2 teaspoons of salt and a teaspoon of pepper. And now I'm just going to stir that for about 3 minutes and let it cook until everything is nice and softened. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the next part of our recipe, which is making the cheese sauce. So I'm going to add in 4 tablespoons of butter to this pot, which is on a medium-high stove. And now I'm going to add in 1.5 cups of milk, 1.5 cups of mozzarella cheese, and 2 cups of yellow cheddar. So I'm just going to dump that right in there. So now I'm just going to stir this until the cheese is melted and it's formed a nice creamy sauce. And then I'll be back to show you the rest of the recipe. Alright, so the cheese sauce is ready, and as you can see, it's got a very nice consistency to it. So now that this is done, I'm going to make the pasta and then we can put everything together. Alright, so I've cooked the pasta and it's nice and tender. I made shells, but if you want to, you can use rotini or penne or any kind of pasta that you want. So I'm just going to dump this right into the pot. And now I'm going to put in our cheese sauce. Okay, now we're going to add in our chicken. And finally, we will add in the zucchini. Alright, so our food is ready and it looks really delicious. I'm going to give you a close-up shot so that you can see how good this looks. Well, I hope you enjoyed this recipe and I can't wait to see you again next week.
Well, we hope you enjoyed Adrianna's Meal of the Week. We need to take a short break. Don't go away. We'll be back.
Welcome back to the Elevate Talk Show. Our time together is almost over, but we just want to remind you that we upload new episodes to our YouTube channel every week. Or if you want to catch us on TV, watch us on DeKalb County's Public Access Channel 25 on Sundays at 7 p.m. Or you can catch us on DeKalb25.com on Sundays at 7 p.m. over live stream.
Yes, and we want to thank you again for subscribing to the show, for watching the show, for sharing the show. I want to invite everyone who hasn't already to like and share and subscribe to the Elevate Talk Show by going to our YouTube channel. And please, we just want to let you know how much we appreciate you sharing the Elevate Show with us. Our time together is up, but have a great week and we'll see you next time. Bye now.